All right, students, today we're going to go over the instructions and an example of what a short writing essay should look like for your history course. So this example is found on Moodle. You can look at it, you can print it off, you can use it as you're writing your essay. You are going to have several questions, and you are going to pick one question to answer in essay form. As with all essays, you're going to begin with a short introduction paragraph and close with a short conclusion. These instructions are going to help you form your body paragraphs. What I suggest you use is a format called TRIPS. TRIPS is an acronym for topic sentence, restriction, illustration, proof, and significance. If you write each of your body paragraphs following this format, you will have clear, concise, high-level paragraphs that will answer your question very well. So like I said, you'll begin with a short introduction, end with a short conclusion, and then each of your body paragraphs will follow this TRIPS format. Your papers need to be double-spaced, 12-point font. You need to have a heading of your name, the course code, and the date. Your title for your paper will be bold, italicized, and centered, and that will be whichever question that you picked to answer of the questions that you can pick from. You're going to use citations in this essay. When you are citing the textbook, you're going to use parenthetical citation. So for the textbook, that's going to be in parentheses, Kennedy and Cohen, comma 2020 if you have the 17th edition. It might be a different publication date if you have an earlier edition, and the page number where you found your quote or you found that information. If you decide to use sources other than the textbook to answer your essay question, you are going to need to include a bibliography, and you're going to use that parenthetical citation method with the author's name, the publication date, and the page number. And then you're going to have a bibliography page and an entry for each of the sources that you used. That is only if you choose to use outside sources. You may just answer your essay using textbook sources. So this TRIPS format starts with a topic sentence. You're going to state with a clearly worded topic sentence what question you're answering. You're going to state what you're going to talk about in that paragraph. Then you're going to focus in your claims. This is your restriction. Then you're going to give an illustration. This is the longest part of your paragraph. It could be more than one sentence. This is where you might be paraphrasing information from the text. If you paraphrase, use parenthetical citation. If it's your own words, then you don't need to cite that, of course. So this section could be several sentences. This is where you're painting a picture with your words, answering the question. Then you're going to back up what you said in your illustration with some proof. This is where you have a quote in your paragraph. You will use quotations and you must cite this claim. Then you're going to do significance. You're going to explain why you selected the proof that you provided. We're going to go through an example to help you out. So the example question that we're going to look at says, discuss how the Spanish explorers used the Rancho, the Mission, the Villa, and the Presidio to settle the American Southwest. So I've titled my paper with my name, Gretchen Bullock, History 000, because I'm not taking a history course right now. Whatever your course code is what you'll put there. And the date, September 13th, 2021. I have bolded and italicized the question that I chose to answer. Discuss how the Spanish explorers used the Rancho, the Mission, the Villa, and the Presidio to settle the American Southwest. I begin with a short introduction paragraph. The Spanish explorers utilized the knowledge gained through reconquista of the Iberian Peninsula to establish a foothold in the American Southwest. Spain began to settle the American Southwest in 1610 with the establishment of the first permanent settlement at Santa Fe. The Rancho, Mission, Villa, and Presidio were the tools the Spanish used to settle the American Southwest. So you guys, I've introduced what I'm going to discuss in this essay, but I have not yet answered the question because the question asks, discuss how the Spanish used the Rancho, the Mission. I've just told you that they did use them. So this is just my short introduction to get you ready to know what you're going to be reading. Then I launch into my TRIPS format in my first body paragraph. So I start with my topic sentence. The process that the Spanish used was orderly and began with establishing a presidio. So we know we're going to be talking about the presidio in this paragraph. The presidio was essentially a military garrison which established a presence in the area and protected the mission. So now I've told you what a presidio is. I've restricted my paragraph, so you really know I'm going to be talking about the presidio. Now I'm going to illustrate it. The Presidio served several purposes, including a place to train troops for service in the frontier wars. So I only used one sentence here. You could use more. Then I go into my quote to prove that this was a place to train troops for frontier wars. For example, the Presidio was initially employed in the last half of the 16th century as protection against the Chichimeca Indian nation that inhabited the north central plateau of New Spain. I've then cited my quote. This was from a textbook that Calvert wrote in 2014, and it's page number 16. All right, and then I tell you the significance of this quote that I've just given you. It says, the Presidio ensured the protection for those who traveled to New Spain, hoping to spread Catholicism and civilize the frontier. All right, so I've answered one part of my discussion question, and then I'm going to move on and use the TRIPS format again in my next body paragraph. I start with my topic sentence. The presence of the Presidio allowed for the establishment of missions. Again, very broad topic sentence. The mission was the religious center of the area and the Roman Catholic Church's base to provide religious instruction for Spanish and converted natives. I have restricted to exactly what I'm going to be talking about. Each mission was staffed with Catholic priests and friars who worked to establish friendly relations with hostile tribes and by their fortified presence assisted in retaining the conquered territories for the Spanish crown. There's my illustration. Then I prove it with a quote from the text. The missionaries sought to convert the Indians to Catholicism, establish friendly relations with hostile tribes, and by their fortified presence at the mission, assist in retaining conquered territories for the crown. I've then cited my source with parenthetical citation. The mission allowed the Crown to control church activities in the New World and attempt to Europeanize the new lands. I already can tell reading back that I could have proofread this essay just a little bit better. So make sure that you're reading them out loud and you're proofreading them as you go through so that you can make sure that they're clear and they make sense and they say what you want them to say. I then go on to talk about the Rancho in the same way. I start with my topic sentence. I then give a restriction. I then illustrate it. I then prove it. I then give the significance. I then talk about the via. I have a topic sentence. I have my restriction. I have my illustration. I have my quote. I have my significance. And then I conclude my paper with a very short conclusion. The Spanish Empire was effective in settling the New World colonies. They utilized an orderly and tested method of civilizing. The establishment of the Rancho, Mission, Villa, and Presidio were the tools that the Spanish used to successfully settle the American Southwest. And so this is the format that I would like you to answer your essay in. So you're going to choose one and answer the question. The only thing I didn't put specifically on this page in the instructions that you'll see in the rubric is that this answer needs to be 500 to 750 words in length. I will be taking off points if you do not meet my word count. So hopefully this helps you to do amazing on your first essay for this course. Have a great day.